Are you controlling money or is money controlling you? Because really what it comes down to is how you answer that question is ultimately going to determine how big of an issue is gold going to be in tripping you up as a man.
Welcome to the Step Up Podcast, where our goal is to help you step up in every area of your life. I'm your host, Josh Thomas, and I'm joined by my pastor, Chris Kuba.
So I told you, you have the best combination, right?
Yeah.
Of experience, like pre-ride experience, on-ride experience.
Yeah.
Best music on a ride.
No doubt.
Combined with the best roller coaster of just
Everything.
feels like you're floating or whatever.
Yeah.
That's Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is. Yeah. I would tell anybody, no matter what the weight is,
Oh yeah.
right? Like stand there and just get ready.
Yeah. I told you, right? I didn't.
You didn't. No, like that was not
undersell it.
that was not an oversell in any way. The Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster is the best roller coaster in the world.
It is. It really
And
is.
I stand by that.
So you just went to Disney.
I
So
did.
you just had the whole
did.
experience.
Yeah.
Have you been before? Is that the first
No,
time?
so I went about 13 years ago,
Okay.
which essentially with Disney, that's like, it doesn't even count.
It's like a whole
right?
nother
Exactly.
coolness, but you're younger. Now
But I
it's like as an
also-
adult, it's a whole different experience.
Yes, and I got to
Newly
take
married?
Yeah, newly married. So it was me and Lily Grace, and then our best friends from Mississippi, and
Okay.
so it was super fun. Audrey has actually done the college program,
Okay.
so we got some perks, and like she just kind of knew like the different ins and outs. Like I mean, it really is a game.
Oh, there's no question.
Like
like
Disney,
an algorithm.
Yes, like
Yeah,
Disney
it's
is
crazy.
a game. Like you got to know,
Yeah.
like okay, I got to go to this park at this
Yeah.
time, and I got to catch this, and so. But no, it was super.
We had some friends
fun.
of ours that when we went, they like literally guided us as though they were with us the whole time.
Yeah.
Because they've give you, the people that are Disney people, they know.
They know.
And there's just certain rides, like the Rise of Resistance.
Oh my god. Okay, and I will say
It's
this: I'm not
crazy.
even a Star Wars fan.
It's amazing.
It's second. It's second. Like it's
Yeah,
so cool
it's right
to
there.
see the way that they fashion that ride together and just it was.
But even
awesome.
some of the old school ones, like it's just,
know.
I mean, that place is amazing. And now you can drop some serious coin.
Oh yeah,
at Disney.
Oh yeah, it was. It was funny. We were headed to a show. And I was hungry, and I was like, man, I wonder if they're gonna have concessions up here for us to buy. And it was just this guy. He was walking to the show. He was like, buddy. He's like, I can assure you, Disney's never going to turn down your money. They'll always give you.
It's unbelievable.
They'll always give you an opportunity to spend money. And I was like, oh, that's
there's
true.
a souvenir shop. Every time you think about it, there's just
Oh,
around
yeah.
the corner.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
all these places to eat.
And your
there's desserts,
vacation.
there's
So
whatever.
it's like, yeah.
And there's no question about it. I'm not trying to get on anybody if they're spending money at Disney, because at the end of the day, that's an experience unlike
It's
anything,
amazing.
and it's
amazing.
crazy.
Top tier.
But that mentality, at least I know whenever I go on trips like that, I have a budget, I've got an idea, but like, it's a little bit of like, whatever, it's vacation,
Yeah.
Like, here we go. Like,
Yeah.
let's just
Yeah,
enjoy
let's just
it.
do it.
Let's
Yep.
just do it. Let's eat this extra thing here. Let's,
Yeah.
I'm don't usually try to eat after 9 o'clock or something like that. But you know what? I'm at Disney.
I
So
think
what I'm
we
going
were
to I'm
having
going to eat a whole turkey
churro.
leg and a churro. Yeah. Like, what am I
we
doing?
had churros at like 10:30. It was
Crazy.
amazing.
It's just rules get kind of thrown out. But I want to talk through though, because we've been talking in this for the last couple of weeks about this whole idea. Deuteronomy 17 was kind of where we launched this from, of the things that trip up kings is the context of the passage. And I want to argue it's the same thing from Deuteronomy 17 that trips up kings that's been tripping up men, I would say literally for generations.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've talked about gold,
Yes.
girls, and glory.
Now,
Right.
my buddy.
I can't.
I'm telling you,
I
Joe
can't
Perry.
do the iconic accent.
Joe Perry, great, rest in peace, man. He went to be home with the Lord a few years ago. But if you ever, he was in a context of a church ordination.
Yeah.
And he told the guy, three things trip a man: gold, girls, and glory.
Yeah.
And man, it's just forever ingrained in my head and my mind. And it's been interesting to kind of think this through. And even last week, the last time we talked about this, the whole concept of gold and money, man, that's a touchy thing.
Yeah. I mean, finances are a super serious thing to talk about.
And
of course.
it's because what I've seen often is that guys will take vacation mode into the rest of their life. Like they come home for vacation and they still spend this, like, I'm not really conscious of what all we're spending. Like, I know I've got some kind of idea, but like, I mean, we got a buddy of ours that we know that like we've never seen him without a Starbucks in his hand.
Yeah.
And I've got a friend of mine here at the church who calls it $6. And there's a little bit of that. I think he's right. Every time you go, it's minimum $6, right?
Yeah.
It's no matter what you buy, it's going to be $6. And there's an aspect of that where like, man, that starts to add up over time.
Yeah, kind of throwing myself on the bus here a little bit. I'm like, sometimes a little scared to know how much I've spent, on Starbucks.
Do you love it that much, or it's just more almost habit?
It's just habit, It's the coffee shop that's the closest to the church.
Yeah.
It's the coffee shop we take people to. The whole deal is right
Sure.
there. But you actually start thinking about it. It's like $6
Adds up.
quickly adds up
Over
to
and over
more
again.
than $6. And so,
Yes, it gets there. And there's no question about you kind of have to start thinking about money in a way where you're like, really, this is the ultimate question. Are you controlling money, or is money controlling you? Because really what it comes down to is how you answer that question is ultimately going to determine how big of an issue is gold going to be in tripping you up as a man. And what we found even last week from the whole idea of 90 versus is greater than 100, and the whole idea of tithing, whatever else. I mean, people get passionate about this because it's almost like you can get away with saying anything you want to anybody about anything, but you touch their wallet, it's almost like, man, hands off. Like you're not allowed to go there. And I think that emotional reaction shows that this isn't just like a financial thing we're discussing here. Like there's definitely a dollars and cents ledger sheet looking at your bank account, trying to see if you've got enough in there. But I think it's way more of like, what kind of relationship do you have with money? And men, I think especially for whatever reason, seem to especially fall prey to this specific thing, because when you use your money, then what's happening is you're making decisions based on your values, you're basing on your calling, what God wants you to do. But whenever your money uses you, you begin to start making decisions based upon fear or greed, or what does my bank account dictate? That determines my worth in life. And that's when you're heading down the path where I'm telling you that gold is going to trip you up as a man.
This is something that I think it's really helpful to think through, even in some practicalities. And so could you give me just a few examples of, what does it look like to make decisions based off of fear or greed, or essentially what your bank account dictates? Any examples on that one, PC?
Think about this from last time. We talked about kind of the two different ways of living, the world's view of economy versus God's view of economy. If I've got a guy that I'm using money, I might say this: I'm going to be generous because that's who God called me to be.
Okay.
Like I'm going to be generous because I know this is what God desires of me, regardless of how much I have. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to tithe of what's left over. I'm going to give from the first fruits, right? That's the principle we talked about last time. But a guy who's being used by money, here's what he's going to say: hey, I'll be generous if I have some left over. It's the same principle as the world's economy. We talked about all the different the 5 different things. The very end is going to be, well, if I have enough, then I'll give.
Essentially, if I make more, I'll give more.
No question. Or think about this. It's a guy who uses money, tracks his spending so that he can be a good steward. It's not just about giving. I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, preacher again. Here he goes. He's ran about tithing, whatever else. That's the starting point. And then the second thing you're going to need to do is you got to be a good steward. You're not obsessing over all of the money, but you are managing it, you're stewarding it. But a guy who's being used by his money is one who basically is going to obsess over every penny out of fear. Or here's what I've also seen. Let me see if you've seen this as well. People completely avoid looking at their finances because they don't want to know, because they're ashamed.
There's a whole lot of Instagram like memes about this one, where it's like I check my bank account, and then I realize that there's not nearly enough in there as I thought.
Sure.
And then I go and I look to see if I've been hacked, and I realize that I'm actually the culprit, the robber of my own bank account. Right. And so, I've definitely seen that one. And I've even been there at times with that one because you're scared of what you'll find. But it sounds like both of those, the money has the power over you.
Yeah.
You don't have the power over the money in both of those situations.
And it's weird because like you own other things, like you own a car. I own a car, you own a car. We don't think about our cars 24/7, right? But on the other hand, man, money is one of those things like it's kind of always there. You're always thinking about it. You're always obsessing about it. You're always worried about it. You're always letting it control your thoughts, your emotions. In ways I've found, particularly in my marriage with Hillary, this is an area that we've probably struggled with the most. Like, no, without question, the number one issue we've had has been related to our finances. Not necessarily because of how much we made or didn't make, but more so just because of the emotional attachment that we have towards money and ways beyond what I don't think we even possibly realize. And I personally think it's because money represents so much more than just the paper and the coins, right? Which, again, who even carries cash anymore? I don't ever carry cash.
I don't know.
But the bank account, whatever else. It represents security. It represents status. It represents freedom. Maybe you grew up in a situation where you didn't have as much money, and so you want to have the freedom to be able to do whatever it is that you want when you want it. Or maybe it represents power, okay? When you're struggling financially, it feels like, I know I felt this before in the past whenever I've had financial challenges along the way. It feels like I'm failing as a man. Like it feels like as a husband, I'm not either providing. And when we're doing well financially, it's very easy to kind of be like, freaking crushing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it, man. I'm doing what I was meant to do. And I'm not positive that money should have that much control over my emotions.
Yeah, it's almost like we have tied our worth to whatever our bank account will reflect, which is not true.
And the culture absolutely pushes that.
Yeah.
Because what they're going to celebrate is whoever has the most toys wins, right? Whoever has the most stuff wins, which is why I think that's the trap. The enemy wants to pull you into what the culture is going to suggest related to the issue of money. And if you don't get control over this, then what you're going to find is that it has a power over you that's going to take you out.
So let's talk through some of the warning signs of this, because I mean, the reality is that we all have to interact with money.
Sure.
Like there's nothing around that.
Sure.
But I do think we can ask some really important questions, such as how do we know if we're using our money or if our money's using us? But what are some warning signs, BC, when it comes to your money is using you?
First one, your mood is tied to your financial situation. Guilty.
Guilty as
There's no
well
question.
on that one.
If I've got a good financial day, it makes me feel successful. It makes me feel empowered. It makes me feel confident. If I got a bad financial day, it makes me feel like a failure. If that is the case, and when you look at your bank account, your entire perspective begins to shift, money's using you. It is not the other way around. You make decisions. Let me give you another one. Number two, you make decisions based on fear instead of faith. So instead of asking, what does God want me to do? That's really the whole point of the first fruits that we talked about last time, is because when I start with that as the priority, then it allows me to begin to have everything else fit into place. But if I don't, then I'm going to start asking this, well, what if I don't have enough?
But I feel like that question is so dangerous, because if left to us to figure out if we have enough, it would be you never have enough.
Well, no question.
And you just start to create this lack. I see it all the time with guys, specifically guys that will stay in their job that they don't even really enjoy, but they're thinking, man, this is gonna bring home, this is gonna pay the bills, because they're too afraid to trust that God can actually provide for them, and that they don't have to go out and do all this stuff or even stay in jobs that would accumulate wealth when they're not trusting God.
I've seen guys that have literally made the question, like, should I compromise here? Who would have never, ever done that. But honestly, the paycheck's too good, or the opportunity down the road is too good. And they find themselves doing things that compromise their integrity, all because of money. That's when money's using you, because essentially it has this power where I'm fearful of what's going to happen if I don't have this income coming in, as opposed to what does God want me to do? And God doesn't always want you to leave the job.
This is true.
But God may want you to stay at the job with a different perspective and face the consequences by living in integrity and not doing what everybody else is doing, simply and knowing that if it does cost you your job, God's got that too.
So, BC, when you say, integrity, I'm imagining you mean secretive, right? Or not being secretive with your finances.
I'm telling you, that's number three. Here is another one. When you see guys getting secretive about their money, that's a big warning flag. Like that's a big, big, scary thing. If they're like hiding stuff from their wife, or they're embarrassed about their financial situation, they're inflating their success to make themselves look better. Like, I just think these are kind of all traits that show, man, your money is using you. Like, it is not a healthy relationship that you have. I mean, I know guys that maybe have a lot of money, but they don't want to tell their wives because maybe they're savers and their wives are spenders, and they don't feel like they can handle that. And I would sit there and say, that's not like, your marriage is based on deceit. Like, that's not what God wants for you. Or they'll, hey, we're all good. And the reality is they may not be. Like, it's just weird. Like, you don't, just go flaunt and talk about money. You and I have actually had some conversations.
We've had a lot of
openly
conversations
about it. And man, I commend you for the fact that that's the case. I've done the same thing along in the way in my life, because I think when you start to get secretive, that's when it starts getting dangerous. You isolate yourself. You don't put yourself around other wise counsel. But I think you also put yourself at a place to where you always are having this thought that's not true. I'll be fine next month. You always feel like you're just around the corner from getting it all figured out. And that's never always the case. Because what happens whenever you begin to do that is money starts to become your identity. And then you got to start protecting the image. But here's the thing, secrecy around money, I mean, that's always a red flag, because if you can't be honest about your financial situation, it likely means, man, this thing's got a hold of you at a level beyond what you probably are seeing. And I guarantee you what is good and what is healthy for you.
I would imagine too that this isn't just a problem for people that are making, X amount of money. This is no matter, regardless of what the bank account says, even guys that would essentially have it all together, could money still be using them?
Man, I've honestly found it, the more money you make, at times it's even harder to spot, but it's just as real, because then what happens is a couple things. One, you either start looking down on other people because you've got your act together and they don't have their act together, and you assume that instead of, Deuteronomy chapter 18, the next chapter of the passage that we looked at in Deuteronomy 17 says, be careful lest you get into the land and start to say, my power and the might of my hand has gotten me this wealth. You shall remember the Lord your God. It is he who gives you the power to give wealth. Yeah. What happens is guys that maybe are successful, they begin to start to think, man, I did this, I did this, I did this. This is what got me successful, instead of being able to give it to the Lord. Or they also find themselves giving them less permission to be less generous. And I think that God blesses you so that you could be a blessing.
Yeah.
And so I found people that don't make a whole lot of money.
Minimum wage.
Let's
just talk about it.
I've also found others that make a lot of money and are not generous at all. So I don't necessarily think the amount of your income is a measuring stick over what kind of control money has on you. It's instead more a factor of the heart, which is ultimately what the Bible tells us, right?
So we've been talking about this idea that 90, of course, is greater than 100. And I'd love to go back to that for just a second, because I'd love for you to break down mathematically what that looks like and how it works mathematically for 90 to be greater than 100.
Because 90, with God's blessing, is greater than 100% of you and worry and anxiety and all the things that go along with that.
Whew.
At the end of the day,
that's
the simple equation, right? And so it's all about who's managing your finances. Like, do you view your finances as you are a steward of God's resources, or do you view it as though you are trying to figure out how to manage your money?
So let's get practical then, because I know that a lot of guys listening would probably resonate with many things we've talked about today, and we've addressed the problem. Let's kind of get into the solution of this a little bit. Yeah. What are some practical steps that some of these guys can take just to find financial freedom? Because that's ultimately what we're after,
yes,
right?
For sure. Yeah, let me give you number one, I tell you, automate your giving. We talked about this a little bit last week.
Yeah.
But man, don't make this a situation to where you're debating, should I do this? Will I do this? Am I going to have enough? I know guys who do it, and then all of a sudden college comes around or whatever else, then I'm going to back off. And it's like, wait a second, automate your giving. Make this something that it's not a negotiable. It's the first check you write. Again, I don't even write checks, but at the end of the day, I automate my giving. It's my version of making it literally like the very first thing that's going to go is going to be that automated giving. And then I think what's happening is you're training yourself to depend upon the Lord to be able for him to show how he can take care of all of the rest.
I loved how you mentioned in our last conversation, why automate? Because there may be guys who are like, no, I'll be disciplined enough to just, I'll take it out every time. And I'm like, I don't know if I would be that disciplined. And so Lily and I automated ours to where it just leaves, because I know that if I hold on to it, then I want to keep it.
Sure.
And then I will go get a $6 drink, and then I will go get a new pair of shorts. And and so just automating it just literally just gets it out of the account as soon as it comes in, and you don't have to worry about it all that much. So
let me give you another one. Number two, create a budget, but don't worship it. I think that's an important thing. So let's first of all talk about this. The guy that's out there that doesn't have a budget, that doesn't live off a budget, you got to do that, okay? I use YNAB. You Need a Budget. It's an app that I pay for. It's way more expensive now than it used to be, but I love the principles in it. You and I were having this conversation literally this week.
I had a friend tell me that Every Dollar by Dave Ramsey is really, really
sure.
good. I think there's a free version that gives you the opportunity to do a ton of features. I think the paid version links to your bank account and like actually tracks your spending habits and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you can get into the weeds of it as much as you want to, but it almost seems like you're cautioning us against that for a specific purpose, because then you start to worship it.
Well, so like like this is part of the tension of Hillary and I, specifically in the early part of our marriage. Like we didn't make a lot of money. And so therefore not only we had a budget, that's one of the things I did, but I also, like, I would be obsessive about the budget. Like I would be over the top about the budget to where she'd come home and be like, did you spend this much money on this? Did you spend this much money on this? And I was suffocating her. And it began to be a situation to where it just wasn't fun for me. It wasn't fun for her. We dreaded money conversations. We needed to have money conversations, but at the end of the day, we avoided them like the plague. Why? Just because we had done something that was intended to be a tool. A budget is a tool. It is not the end. A budget is a tool to help make sure that you can use your money instead of your money using you. But if you use it as a tool to cause harm to your spouse by either suffocating them or so, what we did early on, okay, we're going to give a little bit of money that then is yours that you don't necessarily have to be as over the top accountable for. And it was a situation to where she had the freedom to just buy some stuff without feeling there's this kind of like restraints. And what I was trying to do was control. What she was trying to get was freedom. And both of us were using a budget as a way to go about it.
Yeah.
And that it was not a helpful thing. That's not what we meant for. So when I say that, I mean, don't become so obsessed that it causes friction. Let it become a tool. That being said, it can't just be a tool that basically never gets followed.
Yeah.
I mean, it does have to be something
this is very true.
No, you actually got to rein stuff in. You got to be able to look at. That's what I love for us. YNAB is the budget app we use. It lets us see, do I have the money before I actually spend it? And those are the questions you want to begin to ask.
Yeah, it's the budget serves you and your values, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked a little bit about the practical things, just when it comes to, let's just call it the just adulting part of it.
Sure.
I would imagine there has to be some spiritual disciplines in this as well. And so any practical kind of spiritual takeaways?
Yep. Let me give you number 3, practice contentment deliberately. Okay. Paul says that he learned to be content in Philippians chapter 3 in every situation, meaning that's a skill that I have to go and develop. I found this is important because if I am not content and my money is using me, I'm going to try to find contentment in things that I buy or amount of money that I have. And you're going to find yourself at a place where you're going to see neither one of them suffice. Neither one of them are going to help you. And so instead, literally make a list of your blessings. Like teach yourself, train yourself to be able to learn what it means to be content in every situation. So when you find yourself wanting something new, ask yourself, why do I want this? Is it because I need it or because I think it will make me feel better about myself? It's not bad to have nice things, but it is bad to try to use nice things to be able to provide contentment that only the Lord is meant and designed to be able to provide for you.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, this is speaking to my heart, just personally. Contentment is something that I've struggled with for a really long time, not just in finances, but just in life. And so one of my life verses really is Psalm 23:1. I think that itself can preach for a long time. The Lord is my shepherd.
Yeah.
Because of that, I have everything I need.
Yeah.
And it's just like, no, David, but it's like, no, like, God is my shepherd, therefore I have everything that I need. But I really do like that principle of, do I need this, or will it make me feel better with myself? It's a self-check before making a purchase, right? And so just having a quick budget meeting with yourself, maybe even with your spouse about it before, swiping the card. And so,
well, the prayer, the model prayer, the prayer of Jesus, one of the things he says, give us this day our daily bread. It's not just asking for provision. It's also inviting Jesus into our lives so that he has access to not only provide for us, but have a say into how we use what he provides.
Yeah, and the implication is that regardless of what you have versus what you don't have, God's still good.
Sure.
Like that is the implication, but that's hard.
Yeah.
And there's no way around it.
Let me give you another, this is huge practical one is number 4, be radically honest about your financial situation. Now, this means with your wife at a minimum. This means with a trusted friend, maybe with a mentor. Secrecy gives money power over you. And I'm telling you, you've got to get somebody in your life. We've talked about the friends every man should have. Like, I'm not saying they got to know every detail, but they kind of need to know.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to have some gut level, honest conversations. Or if they find out how much you made or how much you spent or how much you did this, they would have the ability to be like, okay, let's talk through this. Or you're not embarrassed if they find out because it's either too much, or you're embarrassed because you've been trying to perceive and show a life that actually says you make a whole lot more. I just think that secrecy is just a dangerous place in life.
It's hard though, PC, for a guy to admit where he is. And that's hard for a lot of guys. I mean, for me personally, and I'm not going to out any names, but there are a ton of guys in our church that have just been instrumental in helping me, just as a young guy, to figure out this budget stuff. I mentioned two. Bruce Poole is phenomenal, and then Eric Smith, who mentors me. We're actually getting dinner tonight, and I'm like, all right, Eric, Lily's wanting a car at the end of the year, and so we need to start figuring some stuff out. And it's just helpful. And guys, if you're listening, it's gonna feel hard.
Yeah.
But it's the most relieving thing when you just put some of this stuff in front of somebody that's maybe been where you are or can speak into it. In the same way that you're going to people or older guys for coaching and parenting or in your job, you just kind of need a financial coach too.
Sure.
Or somebody that can just come alongside you, that's been where you are, that can help you get to some of these goals, or even help you figure out a budget.
But be careful. It's not just about going to a financial advisor. Okay, I'm not against financial advisors. I've gone to financial advisors. I think they're great. That's not what we're talking about. How do I invest? Those types of things.
Right.
It's about going to a godly man. It's about going to somebody who's got wisdom and being able to say, hey, this is a decision I think I'm going to make. I think it makes sense financially. I just want to run this by you and see if I'm missing anything. Like, that level of transparency and honesty, man, feels very vulnerable. Why? Because the world tells you is that ultimately your value is determined by how much money you have, how much money you spend. Who has the most toys wins. What God's word would sit there and tell you, and what His kingdom would say is that no, we need to be open about all things. We're not necessarily flaunting our money and telling anybody and everybody, but I've got guys in our church who I've made some big purchases, even recently. I mean, I bought a truck and bought some other things just because I'm not buying bikes these days. I'm buying cars because I got kids driving like crazy. I got my fifth driver now, which is just absolutely total. Not three in the family, 3 kids, and then Hillary and I. But I made some calls and be like, I just want to make sure, is this a wise decision? Is this a good use of the resources? This is kind of what I'm thinking from a financial perspective, whatever. And just the invitation of guys in, I think, takes that level of secrecy, and it allows me to use money as opposed to that money using me and trying to give me status or anything else that it's not what I need to have.
Okay, so let's just, I'll play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say that the secrecy continues, and there's just some guys that are really struggling, like right now, that are listening. They're behind on bills. They've got debt they really can't handle. What would you say to them?
You especially need to be honest. You need to get yourself in financial freedom at the church, Financial Peace University. You need to go and to seek wise counsel, seek help either from the church, from a counselor, whatever it may be, because I think too many guys get themselves in a ditch and then are too prideful to be able to admit it, and then they just kind of dig a rut even more, as opposed to no. Like, I remember whenever I went to a financial advisor, a believer, it was in our church, or the church I came from, and I went and sat down with him, and I was like, man, what do I do? And he was like, man, I just think you just need to continue to be faithful. And it was a freeing thing because it wasn't like we were overspending in this area. Yeah. He commended us for some, but it was a vulnerable thing to be able to do that. But it was also freeing because I really could just trust the Lord and realize I'm not making these 5 mistakes over here. I'm instead doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but I just needed to hear somebody speak. But maybe you are making those mistakes. You need somebody that gives you the freedom to be able to speak in, like we did from a coach last time, and be like, hey man,
right.
What, don't buy $6 every day. At all. And especially not 4 a day.
Yeah.
Like that's part of your problem. So let's think this through. I mean, let's just kind of like bring this home. Like, what I want to ask you to do is to really begin to, first of all, like kind of do a money audit. Okay. Like, ask yourself honestly, what decisions am I making out of fear? Like, what am I hiding about my finances? How often am I thinking about money? Like, I think awareness is kind of a first step to some freedom that kind of can help you. Second thing I would encourage you to do, have an honest conversation this week about money with someone, okay? Whether it's your wife, whether it's a close friend, whether it's a mentor, share one thing about your financial situation that you've kind of been keeping to yourself. I just think that very act can make the stigma about money and talking about money maybe go away and can open up and unlock some doors that I think can push you towards being able to experience some freedom in this
That's
area.
good. One of the things that in our premarital counseling that you and Hillary actually walked us through that, Lily and I greatly appreciated was just kind of having a standing date day to kind of talk through some of this stuff. And so just kind of having, a neutral ground, right? Like, hey, we're just going to talk about schedule. Sometimes it's going to be us just catching up. But sometimes if we need to have a money conversation, we can, so if you have a standing date day where, you and your wife are together, just bring up this stuff. I think that's a really easy place to adapt to. And again, like even when you do the money audit, it's not about condemnation, right? It's just, you're just seeking clarity.
Be honest.
Yeah.
You got to be honest.
You're just honest, and it's scary, but it is necessary. So.
Yep. Let me give you a third challenge this week would be make one decision this coming week based on your values instead of your bank account balance. Let me give you some examples of what that looks like, okay? Maybe it's being generous when you don't feel like you can afford it, okay? Like if you feel I've always thought this, when I get a prompting of the Spirit related to money, I want to say yes to that. I don't want to hold back on that. Maybe it's saying no to a purchase that you want, but you don't actually need. That alone can bring some freedom in your life. Maybe it's having a money conversation with your kids about being good stewards. I just want to make sure that you're not allowing money to have so much control, because Deuteronomy 17 talks about it with kings, but it's the same thing with men. It is going to lead you down a path to where that gold is going to take you out, and it's going to disqualify you from being all that God desires and all that God wants you to be.
That's right. The gold trap tells you that your worth comes from what you can accumulate, but that, of course, it's not true. PC, any final thoughts for guys who feel like they're already stuck in the gold trap?
Man, God's a God of fresh starts. I have seen guys that have been absolutely terrible with their finances, and they've been able to change in a big, big way. Whether you're greedy, whether you're foolish, whether you're fearful with money, today's a new day. So I want to just encourage you, start with one small step of obedience and trust Him to meet you where you are. And this is one of those areas, again, get Malachi 3, we talked about it last time. When you start being faithful and you start doing what God's asking you to do, He says, see if I won't pour down heaven and bless you in such a way. He owns a cattle on 1,000 hills. God is not worried about being able to take care of your financial problems, but He is only going to do it whenever you turn those things fully over to Him.
Guys, we want to hear your stories. I will say, PC, it's been awesome getting feedback. Season 2 has been so fun. If you try these challenges, send us a message. We love to encourage you. We love to support you. And remember that every day is a chance to step up and step out of the traps that would destroy you. And one of our core values here is that we're better together. And so you're not having to do this in isolation, not having to do this alone. Come talk to somebody on staff. We'd love to help you get into some of these programs we have at the church to help you experience financial freedom. But man, this has been an awesome conversation on gold. PC, where are we headed next?
Girls.
All right.
Talking about them girls.
Okay. Looking specifically at the power of temptation and how to avoid it.
No question.
And so, I think it'll be good. But until then, stay strong, stay honest about your finances, and remember that you're not defined by what you own, but by who owns you. And that's such a strong word. All right, good. Keep stepping up, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to the Step Up Podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe, and share this episode to help us get the word out. We would love to hear from you. So please leave us a comment and even leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. For additional information or to reach out directly, please visit chriskuba.com. That's chriskuba.com. You can also follow Pastor Chris on social media and just search Chris Kuba. Kuba is Kouba. You can also follow United City Church on all socials at United City Church. That's going to be UNTD City Church. Thanks so much.